Welcome back, everybody. So we just had the public funding panel, and the idea was to give some insight to the public funding that's currently available, just as the general director asked us to. I think we did that. Now let's see if the next panel can do as well. This is now the publisher panel, so we want to know how we can make European publishing a force for the industry of Europe. And to start us off, again, I have an impulse from a game developer, and I have none other than Andrej Levensky of Gamepires in Croatia, I believe, and you're the technical director, Andrej. Over to you.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm from Croatia, Zagreb, and I'm technical director at Gamepires. So we are currently 10 years old firm, and I can say that it was really rough last 10 years, and lots of bad and great things happened. So I will try to explain what was our history and how did we started as studio without publisher, then we started working with the publishers, and again we are right now self-publishing. So I'll try to explain. We are a studio that is founded 2010 in Croatia, Zagreb. We started with 7 people. Lots of us were very long in the industry, over 15 years already. We worked on lots of different projects, technologies, and we had idea how to make different kind of companies. So we found private investors that will help us to grow and make the company. So after we gather up together, idea is to decide what kind of project and stuff we will do as a newly created studio. So we have classical problem: a small indie studio, small team, low budget, lots of overtime, but in the end we love to make games. And for start, we decided to go with the racing franchise, and idea was behind it to have some kind of project and the game that was not so touched too many in the industry last 10 years. So idea was, if we make some kind of game that there is no too many concurrent projects, and we make the good game, everything will be all right. But is it? The main problem when you're starting a new studio in this studio, you have many problems. For example, you are probably at that time developing your new technology, you have the new name, so it's very hard for you to be known to the players. So it's very hard to stick out because there is lots of small studios. But our idea was, if we push everything 99% into development and make the good game with a good score, we will be all right. But so we decided to go for self-publishing, and that was actually a disaster. Because we have lots of problems to go to some specific markets like Steam at that point, and just to enter few smaller store front pages, and it was disaster for the sales. Our scores for the game was 80 to 90% all the time, but there is no that much visibility, and that's why we finally, 1 year after game was out, we decide we'll finally go with the publisher, and then everything started to be much better for us. Our sale was started to go up. The biggest problem is that as smaller studio, you don't have the connection even to some kind of website to promote your game. Your marketing is very limited, so every possible connection in the industry can help you to push you a little bit further. So we were actually at brink of closing the studio because of that. We are didn't have any money to continue to work. So we finally meet the publisher that helped us to get into the Steam. And after that, it was a little bit better situation. But still, we have the problem to be a bigger game because racing genre was not that popular at that moment. So we'll decide what we'll need to do the next and what's the best thing currently on the market. So our first game, Gas Gas franchise, did really good on the scores. Sale was pretty good for that kind of genre, and this keep us alive for many years after that. So it was not everything lost. This first Gas Gas Combat Carnage was actually uh, it was pretty bad in sales because this one was without publisher, but when we started with the Gas Gas Extreme and all DLC behind it, and we have total support with the publisher and the marketing, we did it much better. And that game finally bring us some enough financial support to start the new project. After that, we started with a survival game. We saw that this survival genre is definitely one of the always on top of the charts of the Steam. So we decided to go a little bit with more mainstream genre and to see how we can improve this genre, because so far we always didn't have the problem to make the good game, but to get a game great visibility, that was always problematic for us. So again, with Scam, we made a contract with the publisher, and it was a little bit better and bigger publisher than the last time. And we started together trying to make best way to make better visibility online. So at first we started to explore the options, how to get more visibilities, more people. And one of idea was that we make some kind of development blogs that will promote us, and start communicating with the feature in early stage of development. So we were doing that for like 1 year, and on day of the release, we had like 600,000 wish list on the Steam. So it was very good start for the sale. We have like around 1,000 streamers that are waiting for the key to start the game, and that was all done in cooperation with publisher and our guerrilla efforts. So we end up right now we end up with the 2 million users. We are best selling game in first 24 hours on Steam with 250,000 sold copies. And at short period of time, we removed the Fortnite from the best streaming game on Twitch. How we achieved, how we created that awareness. So idea is for this kind of games, it's not like publisher will not be always like silver bullet for everything, because you still need to adapt, and with continuous communication with publisher, do what you can do. And that's the your constant activity whole day about your game on the different platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Discord, different forums, Steam forums. Start your Steam store page as soon as possible, collect the wish list. And that's why I written here, you cannot trust publisher that everything will be done by itself. You need to cooperate. So publisher can make a maximum of your game only if you're also pushing your limits and exploring what you can do with your game. I'm already mentioned few social media that we're using extensively. That's definitely Facebook, Twitter, even Instagram, and you constantly, before the release, you need to have good numbers there to make some kind of good sale at start. What is very interesting that stream wish list is probably best indicator how much you will sell at start. So in communication with Valve, that number is around 20 to 30% of your wish list will be sold in first month of your game. So I will definitely advise that without 50 to 100,000 wish list, it's probably not a good idea to start selling your game. So sooner you start collecting people on Steam wish list, it's better. And currently, because its market is oversaturated with lots of games, it's never too early to start with some kind of marketing. We are extensively use guerrilla marketing and trying to visit every kind of websites, forums, just to promote game in any way and make direct contact with the streamers. Make yourself available for every kind of interview you can get. Everything will be added in the end, probably in your total number of sales. So currently, we are around 2 million users. We are still growing. We are, after 2 years, even in alpha, we are constantly in 100 top playing games on Steam, and we are continue to grow, and we don't see where this will stop. Currently, as we started with 7 people, we are currently 2 offices, 47 employees. We are growing very fast, and behind us there is 7 finished projects. So the great thing is that people need to be more flexible and learn from your mistakes. So if we probably pushed ourselves to go without publisher, we will not exist today, and probably this kind of successful project as Scam will never be developed if we're not able to see that we cannot do it by ourselves at that point. Right now, we are big enough so we can be a self-publishing studio, but it was very, very long period until we are able to do stuff like this.
Thank you so much, Andrei. That's almost like a love letter to publishers. That's unusual, actually, for at least for independent game studios. One of the reasons that game developers hesitate to work with publishers sometimes is that they fear that they will lose the creative freedom. What was your experience?
We never had that kind of problems. They were always, if they recognize that the game is looking good and it's already, it's very playable, if they see that, they will not probably want to interfere too much, because then they are breaking what they see that is good in that game. Nobody wants to change something that is working already. It's same like if somebody is buying some kind of studio and you see they have very good results, then you like to that kind of results stay there. So they can always add some kind of advice, and it's always good to listen something if it's explained very nicely, but you will never lose the freedom. You will probably lose some kind of revenue at first, because revenue will be shared, but in the end, you need to ask yourself a question: is it better to have 100% of zero, or maybe 60% of something?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, Andrei, for coming on the show this morning and sharing your experience. Welcome back. So we have the publishing panel now, and the question from the general director was, how can publishers strengthen their financial means and capacity? So we'll talk about money once again with this glorious panel of publishers and one banker. And let's first find out about the banker, Nicolas Parpex. You're the Pilote du Plan du Touch, is that right? From BPI? I don't know what that means. You have to explain to us.
I am the Pilote of Plan du Touche, and I take great pride in it. Okay, so actually I have 3 jobs, and Pilote du Plan du Touche is one of them. My first job is I'm a VC, I'm a private equity investor, specialized in creative industries. I've been doing that my whole career, which is about 15 years. And I sit on boards of a number of creative companies in film and entertainment, in the gaming industry, in the music industry, in the publishing industry, I mean the book publishing industry. And the gaming industry is certainly one of our strategic areas of focus, pun not intended. And for instance, I sit on the board of Naken, former Big Ben Interactive, which is one of the major French publishers in the gaming industry. And I also sit on the board of FLCP, which is an investment builder platform, which recently acquired a controlling stake in Focus Home Interactive.
So did you say your investment in games was not intentional? Don't you have a strategic focus on games?
It's absolutely intentional. It's absolutely a strategic area of focus. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. So my first job is a VC. My second job is that I had the whole equity practice of BPI France, dedicated to the creative industries. And more than that, I had the whole creative industries practice. This is what the Plan Touch is. It's all about managing the whole continuum of financing developed by the bank for creative companies. That is to say that BPI France, I don't know, maybe not everybody knows about it. It's the French public investment bank, and we're a lot of things because we're a bank, of course, so we engage in loans, in funding. We're a private equity firm, so that links to my first job. We're also a sort of coaching agency for entrepreneurs. We're an export credit agency. So we do a lot of things, and the idea of the French Touch plan is to do all these things in a seamless way for creative companies and the gaming companies, and the gaming industry is then again one of our strategic areas of focus.
All right, great. Thanks, Nicola. Now I think I understand, and if I understand, everybody understands. So that's great. Reinhard, how are you doing this morning? You're Reinhard Grattel of Koch Media. You're the Chief Financial Officer, and you're on mute, by the way. So you have to. That's great. Okay. So hello, Reinhard. Thanks for joining us. What's your proudest achievement? What's the biggest hit from Koch Media that you've been involved in?
The biggest hit, difficult to name it. You know, I'm doing this for Koch now since 24 years, and we really started the company from scratch. I'm living here in Austria, Tyrol, middle of nowhere. But I think on the gaming industry, it's not so important where you are based. And we are shifting ourselves. We have a guiding principle saying doing one thing and not neglecting the other. So we were starting buying software, selling software, for example, antivirus products. And then we were moving into the gaming industry, and we bought our first studio in 2013. And we were a private company over the last, or for the first 21 years. And since beginning of 2018, we are now part of Embracer Group, a public company in Sweden. And I think that was the biggest step for us going forward, because in the past we were mainly, independent, but also independent to finance our business.
That's really interesting. So you're owned by a publicly traded company, which gives you access to that the stock market funding. And I know the other week you made a world record, I think, in acquisitions. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we as Koch, we were only, Laris and the whole board at Embracer. They bought in total 13 studios, and we as Koch Media, we bought a very important one for us in Poland. Flying Wild Hawk. We are really proud about these people in Poland, and that was really a strategic step for us to grow our creative industry within Europe. I think that is an important goal for us to develop really cool games and AAA games in Europe. And we bought one studio in France, we have one in UK, Germany, Italy, and also Czech Republic. And Poland was really a missing spot there.
Thanks, Reinhard. I'll come back to you in a second. But speaking of Poland, we do have somebody from Poland, Martin Balawajder. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Per. How are you?
Good, thanks. And you are the chief financial officer of 11-Bit Studios, which is a publicly traded games company in Poland. Is that right?
That's right, Per. We were founded in the end of 2009 and then listed very shortly afterwards on the smaller secondary market of the Warsaw Stock Exchange, the New Connect market, where we spent the first 5 years of our life. We did a couple of small rounds of equity financing, but then in December 2015, we transferred our listing onto the main market of the Warsaw Stock Exchange, where we've been ever since. We currently have 160 people located in one center in an office in Warsaw. We have 3 internal development teams, so you can think of that as 3 independent studios, but they're all here in-house. Because, of course, we are both a developer and a self-publisher. But since 2016, we've also been working to develop our third-party publishing business. And that has grown since then, and we're rather pleased with the results and our cooperation with smaller studios in Poland, in Europe, and beyond.
That's really interesting. So you have different business areas, and what is your experience of being a publicly traded games company? Is it for everyone to be publicly traded, or should it be more like your business with a mix of different business areas? What have you learned?
A number of things. First of all, the New Connect market was very important in helping provide some initial financing, because 11-Bit Studios was founded by 4 individuals with experience of the game sector going back to the late 1990s. They put in their own capital, they founded the company, and then they did a couple of small rounds of financing from the New Connect market. And New Connect was set up in 2009, 2010 here in Poland, specifically to encourage tech companies, gaming companies, biotech companies. And that was fine for us for that initial growth, early startup period of time. But as we became a bigger company, and we had our first very significant commercial success with the release of This War of Mine in 2014, of which, of course, we also cooperated in part with Koch Media, as I'm sure Reinhard will remember. We took a decision to transfer our listing from the small New Connect market onto the main market of the Warsaw Stock Exchange, primarily for reasons of sort of reputation, I would say. We certainly didn't need the financing. The company was generating quite healthy cash balances from from our own productions, so we had no need to raise new capital. But we really saw being on the main market of the stock exchange as something that would enhance the standing of the company. We would open ourselves to a wider investor pool, to pension funds in Poland, from Western Europe, to investors from the US. And together with the main market listing, I also brought on board one of the big 4 auditing companies, and we transferred to reporting under international accounting standards. So these were important areas we felt for attracting much larger institutional investors to our shareholding base.
That's already very interesting, Martin. How many different aspects can go into a choice of going public and which list to be traded on. I'd like to go now to Jürgen. You've been very patient. Thanks, Jürgen. And you're a veteran of the games industry and not least the games publishing industry. Your list of achievements, I think goes beyond what we have time to mention here. So let's just say that you're a veteran, and maybe if you want to mention one title, choose between your children. What's your proudest achievement in games?
Well, that goes back a long time ago. Yeah, and I'm doing this for 37 years. So where should I start? The biggest achievement was a title from Lucasfilm back in the 90s, when it was the first title on a new media called CD-ROM. And when we expected this title to sell 5,000 units because there weren't that many drives out there, it turned out to be 500,000. Yeah, and that was the moment when we turned the company into being a big company across Europe.
Wow. Yeah, I know how hard those decisions can be. I used to be a product manager myself once in the old days.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't want to go back, but fun memories. Never mind, that's for a different time. But with your time perspective, let's say, the wisdom we expect from you, when you hear from the studio impulse from Gamepires and Andre, their journey from trying to do self-publishing as a small company to being successful working together with a publisher, how has games publishing developed over the decades? Is it different now, or is it the same with only different means?
No, first of all, it's still the same job. In the old days, the publishers didn't have their own studios. So now they look after the products coming from in-house, more or less. Yeah, and those who cannot do it, they obviously need other developers to deliver the content they need to sell. Yeah, the content is king. I mean, that is the headline of everything we are talking about. Yeah, and the publishers throughout the time obviously had to change their approach to the market now based on the media. We hardly sell any physical goods anymore. Yeah, so it's all going digital and online. You are marketing their stuff differently. Are you still doing TV spots? Maybe, maybe not, because you can spend your money better on the online medias, because that's how you reach your target audience. Yeah? And then you have to follow the different technologies. So is it not even VR or AR now being involved? And you use that one for marketing purposes as well. Yeah, make a little part of your game in VR or put some AR stuff into it. That's how you will get the interest from the consumer, who at the end of the day has the buying dollars.
But it used to be that with retail distribution, the packaged goods model that with the CD-ROMs, then the publisher was also the gatekeeper for the distribution. That's not the case anymore. How has that changed the business?
Well, it has not changed the business. Obviously, you are trying to go to the retailers direct when you talk the finished good business, but today that is about 10% of business. Yeah, it may be with Koch Media, it's more. Yeah, but other people have around typical publisher, and until a month ago, I was running Focus Home Interactive. It's just around 10%. Yeah. And that's how do you address it? You obviously try to go to the various platforms. They have been the replacement for the retailers. Yeah, and platforms are coming and going like the retailers were. Yeah, and there will be new ones up there. The more interesting part is the change of business models. Yeah, where in the past you had your fixed discount to a retailer. Now you have obviously a revenue share with your platform, but platforms are competing. So competing means who is the winner, the one who offers the content. So I come back to the initial point, content is king.
Well, that's a comfort. But I mean, in the old days, let's say the old days, in the 90s and noughties with retail packaged goods distribution, maybe 2,000, 3,000, maybe 4,000 titles per year were released, but now it's maybe more than 100,000 on all the various platforms. So how is that not different?
Well, in the retail business, you only have limited space, correct? So you go in there, there's a rack, and you can put 40 products up there. Product number 41 will not be on display. Thank you, online business, because now it's different. You have a totally different shop approach, and you can list everything. And as long as the people are covering the cost, they will do the next game. Or as long as they get funded when you talk financing. And Andre's approach saying we don't need a publisher, I think he learned his lesson. And the publisher is providing services you cannot do as a developer, as a studio yourself, unless you hire the people, you buy the know-how, you invest into the know-how, and you need the time to make it all happen. Developers, especially small studios, don't have it. That's where the publisher comes in.
But if there's not a limit to how many games can be brought to market, at least there's a limit to how many games one publisher can work on. So how do you select titles as a publisher?
Well, I established a greenlight team. So you need people sharing that decision. It's not the one person who makes all the decisions. This is the product we will take on. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. So you need people to share it. They also share responsibility at the end of the day. That's why they're qualified. And initially they check the content. Does the content fit into the market? Is the genre right? Is the timing okay? How about a focus group testing? Let's find out if the people like this new kind of genre. So that is the majority of the greenlight process, is the content check. So at Focus, we have almost 300 games being submitted for publishing a year. At the end of the day, I signed between 10 and 12, and that was it. So where's the rest going? Of course, that's why you said there are too many games available. So now content has passed the filters. We like the game, everything is fine. The business development team comes in. They build the P&L. Does it really make sense? Where can I sell? How many products? It goes down to the individual customer level, business level, of course, the individual store or the platform. And when that one is done, legal comes in and does a legal due diligence, even a social due diligence these days, when everything has to be checked before you start a deal with a studio where the day after you read in the press, the guys have problems with harassment issues and whatever. So, and last but not least, the guys I do not like the best, but the finance guys have to come in as well. They need to tell me, do I have the money? Can I afford it? What's the return on investment? How does it impact the cash flow curve? And does the whole thing make sense financially? So where's my return of investment, or should I rather put the money somewhere else? And all when it has passed all of these different people, they tick the boxes, then it comes to me for signature. Sorry, right. It's a long process. It takes weeks and months until you make such a decision.
And with 10 to 12 projects per year, I guess that's a shotgun strategy. You will have one hit and 9 failures.
If that is the case, I should fire the greenlight team, right? So that's not correct. And I was there 2.5 years in Paris, and there was only one product out of 25 where we hardly made the break even. Everything else was bringing the profit we then had to declare in the quarterly statements.
Really interesting.
So
thank you. So
it's a good
precision.
system. Yeah.
It's a precision machine, not a shotgun.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Jürgen. Okay, Nikolai, I'd like to come to you now, because now you've heard a couple of different perspectives from the businesses, some about being publicly traded, some about M&A, and some about the business processes. When we talk about shotgun strategy versus precision, how do you assess risk as a banker when you look at the investment? How do you decide what's too risky and what's a safe bet, and how do you explain this to your managers or whoever is the committee that decides whether to greenlight your investment? Can you explain this to us, please?
Yes, sure. Well, we're not really afraid of risk, because otherwise we would do a different job. So taking risks is part of the process, and it's part of our mission. The whole thing is, one, to mitigate it, and two, to have a vision of a value creation that exceeds the risk. Talking about our investment criteria and the way we think about things before making an investment, or before financing a company, the first thing is the people. Actually, it's the management team. It all comes from this. It's all about talent, and all about being the creative companies. Every company relies on people, on human resources, and on talent, but creative businesses maybe even more. And it's important to have the right balance between creative people and business people. And ideally, these guys not necessarily go along well together, because there's some sort of tension, but they have to level up and improve themselves. So that's the first thing. And then we look at the strategy. And regarding the publishing business, I mean, all the words of wisdom that have been pronounced so far kind of sum it up. Content is certainly king. I wouldn't dare to debate with Jürgen on this. So that's one. Andre's presentation has made it quite clear that the publisher has a gatekeeping power. Is still a very much necessary link in the value chain. So content, being a good gatekeeper. Being a good gatekeeper is all about having a fine green lighting process, about being good at marketing. And as Jürgen said, marketing has changed a lot throughout the years. And the last thing is actually integration. It's all been mentioned. Embracer is a spectacular example of it. But certainly the way for the future is in deeper integration between publishing and studios and development. This is the winning strategy for sure.
But I hear so many times that games companies say, "Oh, it's so difficult with the banks. We have to educate the banks. The banks don't understand our business." Is that the case, or they're just being lazy and disappointed that you didn't fund them?
No, it's sort of true. Otherwise, there wouldn't. I mean, if it wasn't true, I'm not sure I'd be here with you today. It's a pretty complex. Creative businesses and the gaming business, particularly, are difficult businesses to understand for middle of the road finance person, middle of the road banker. You have to have some expertise to assess the risk and make the right decisions when it comes to investment. So this is why the French Public Investment Bank has a dedicated team and a dedicated strategic plan to foster financing, equity financing, banking, and regarding these businesses, because there's some barrier to entry to understand the economics, understand the trends of the market. So that's actually our job to take this wonderful and fascinating subject and make it easier and understandable for all our colleagues in the bank to make the sound decisions.
Yeah, it sounds like you can be a great ambassador, maybe, or an evangelist, as they say in Silicon Valley. I have a question for you, Nicola, from the audience. It's very specific. How many video games companies have entered the BPI portfolio in the last 12 months?
4 of them, actually. We're talking about equity financing, so it's small figures. The figures are much higher when you take a look at the whole continuum. Just to get you an idea, the whole continuum of financing dedicated to creative industries, it's about 1.3 billion euros per year. for Bpifrance. So it's a bigger figure. I had to give you the small figure and the big figure. And so these companies are we've talked about Naked, we've talked about Focus, and I can also quote a studio this time called Tactical Adventures, which was founded by wonderful French gaming entrepreneur named Mathieu Girard, who was the founder of Amplitude Studios, which is also Sega, and it's a great small studio, but with an MVP at his head, developing a TRPG called Crown of Solasta. This is free advertisement.
Yeah, we love it. It's fine. It's a commercial industry, so that's fine. Okay, thank you, Reinhard. Can I come to you now? And do you have like a quick fix for educating the banks? Can you tell us the secret if anybody's having trouble to make the bank understand? What's the spiel?
Yeah, the spiel. It's really, you know, if I tell you the truth, yeah, you wouldn't believe, because you know, when I started to convince banks, mainly in Europe, to finance our business, they looked at me really as from another star. What are you doing here? What are intangibles? What is an IP? There were so many questions they didn't understand. And what I learned is people expected always to be much more prepared than other industries. You know, if you are in the old industry, people, I have a lot of colleagues in the old industry, and they were always smiling when I said I have a bank meeting, because banks were expecting, whatever you can deliver. And that was also the reason why we moved in 2004 to IFRS as a group. There was no need, but I feel the need to give people trust over years and convince them that we are doing the right thing, because nobody is planning a failure in a project development. Yeah, you are always, if you are doing your budget, it's always nice. There is always middle or high case, but nobody is saying, oh, we are losing money here. Therefore, what I learned, and what I also learned with banks, is if you have a risk manager or a banker in front of you, they're nice, yeah, and they only smile and ask the same questions again and again and again. It's not a question that they wouldn't work with us, but I wouldn't work with them, because if there something happens and you have the feeling they don't get what you are talking to them and they don't understand your balance sheet, I can give you my personal advice: please step away, yeah, because if you are, then these people are getting in a panic mode if they don't understand what you are doing and what they are at the end financing, and that we are all selling emotion. It is what Nicolas said, yeah, it's a people business, and you need not only great people in the studio, you need also great people or great risk manager. They are able to understand our kind of business.
Yeah. And thank you for that insight. And what about the M&As? You talked about, or I talked about the acquisitions, but yeah. Do you think that there is consolidation in Europe, or is the growth and emergence of startups outpacing the acquisitions? How do you see this happening?
Yeah, I think so. We are all searching for talents, and what I believe is that, and we discussed it before, Per, last week, I believe that the European Union is really not supporting us as much as they should, because we are losing talents to the United States or Canada or Asia. But we shouldn't make the same mistake as with manufacturing, that we are losing part of our culture. I think it's important, as you had on the panel before, the French culture. I think that's important, that we keep our European culture available, and that we are not only getting dictated from outside. I think it's also important to give our people here the talent and the opportunity to grow. And that is our vision, to embrace people being part of our group, part of the family, and give them the freedom to develop what they believe is successful and what our consumers like to play.
Good. All right, Reinhard, thanks a lot. In a few minutes, I'll come back to you, and I want everybody to answer the same question, actually, which is how do we make available more financial resources for publishers? And you can only have one answer, not several, just one, the top one. So that will be the closing question for this panel. Now you have all been warned. Martin, I'd like to come to you now. As a publicly traded company, and you described before how you branch out and have different business areas, have you also used your shares to acquire other companies? Have you used the stock market like that for acquisitions?
No, we haven't, Pev. At this point, we've been happy to build up a network of companies and small developers that we cooperate with on the third-party publishing side. Coming back to your earlier question, I think, yes, there is a level of consolidation going on clearly within the gaming industry in Europe. That having been said, for sure, from my point of view in Poland, then the level of startups is greatly outpacing the level of M&A. We have over 40 companies now listed on both the New Connect and the main market of the Warsaw Stock Exchange. Clearly, we observe the market, we see what's going on. So we're in the middle of reviewing our 5-year strategic plan. Perhaps in the future, M&A may be a feature. So for the time being, it hasn't been. We've been concentrating on developing our own internal development teams and our third-party publishing. But it is something that I think anyone has to be aware of going forward.
Martin, I have a question from the audience that you might like to comment on. It's how does the new breed of boutique publishers fit in the picture? And the examples given are Raw Fury, Thunderful, VS Evil, Tiny Build, and maybe 11-bit could also be part of that. Is this new breed, are they just a stepping stone before a studio becomes successful and can afford to go self-publishing, or is it more of a long-term partnership? What do you think?
I think it can be both. It can be one that the developer gains through our publishing experiences. He gains his own skill competencies and perhaps, as Jürgen said, takes the decision to build up his own marketing and distribution and internal in-house competences, or he continues to work with us. So we see both models.
All right, great. Okay, thanks, Martin. I'll be back in a minute with the final question, but now I want to go to Jürgen because I have 2 questions from the audience which are sort of practical. The first one is concerning the Greenlight team. Do you share your reasons why you do or do not greenlight the title with the developer? And I like to comment on that myself too, because I used to be in that position when I was working as a publisher. And the reason we don't share with developers is then they start to argue. What's your experience, Jürgen?
Exactly the same, especially if you have French developers. They like to argue everything and all the time. So, I mean, that was just a joke, but it's true. Yeah. So you say, no, thank you, and it doesn't fit the portfolio, or it's not the genre we are active in, or whatever you use. Yeah, but it's clearly the result of the Greenlight process, and that's what we tell them up front.
Yeah, so they'll have to do their own soul searching. It's hard, but that's the case. And the other question is, when is the best moment for a developer to pitch a product to a publisher? Is it better to be very early or better to wait for a more advanced stage?
Well, my answer to that one is clearly just the concept isn't good enough. You want to have some visuals. So is it now already a vertical slice, or is it just maybe an alpha version or whatever? But you cannot convince the people without any kind of materials. The standard phrase is here, seeing is believing.
Right. So something that they can touch and play and make their own minds up about.
Yeah, I mean, I give you a nice example. Years and years ago, In the US, a team came up and showed me a game which later I saw again as Pokemon Go. At that time, it didn't have the Pokemon license.
Yeah.
It was the same game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we all know the company I'm talking about. They were smart enough to put that brand on it, and that made it the success we all know about.
I think the game was Ingress, right?
As I said, that was years ago.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. Nice to get some questions from the audience. But now I have a question for you, and this is the closing round now. So be brief and specific. What's most important in order to strengthen the European publishers, Jürgen?
Well, they need to have the resources. Subsidies are nice from the governments, but number one, it always involves a lot of administration work. So you need a lot of paperwork and arguments and presentations. And unfortunately, again, like Nicholas was saying before, you talk to people, and Reinhard mentioned it too, who have no clue what you're talking about. So that is not very easy. It's nice to have it because it's not a loan. Yeah, usually you don't have to pay it back. Wonderful. VCs, not my favorite stuff because they always come in with an exit strategy. So it's nice to have them in there, but they want out, and they want out with a multiple of their investment as a return, which is understandable. That's what they are there for. However, they also take the risk, as we heard before. What I did in Paris last year was I raised 46 million with a pool of banks, because there are banks, not only one, but they are prepared to take part of the risk. Obviously, they take the shares in return as security. Yeah, and those companies don't have real estate to give it to the bank, but a bank can't do it without a security. So in that case, you pledge your shares. So I like that version because I believe in the company, and that means I believe in the share value.
All right.
Yeah.
So the shares are the key. We'll take that as the advice from you, Jürgen. Thanks so much for being with us. Martin, what's your recommendation? What's needed to strengthen European publishing?
I would say a very good functioning capital market, in particular, a section that is prepared to look at small companies and provide early on for financing for these companies.
Good. So on that topic then, who should be the driver of that? Is it the stock exchange or the companies or somebody else?
For sure, the stock exchange to provide a second tier, a smaller market where investors know that these are new startups, perhaps more high risk. They can be from gaming, they can be from biotech, they can be from other sectors. Because for sure, equity capital is better than any form of debt financing. It's certainly in the early stages of publishers' development.
Okay, that's great, because the next panel after the lunch break will have a representative from a stock exchange. So we'll talk more about that on the next panel. All right, Nicola, what's your idea? How do we strengthen European publishing?
Well, talking about financing, I mean, the money is there. The money is there, and each source of financing serves its purpose. I mean, subsidies serve their purpose, loans to VC to the stock exchange. I'm not sure there's one great solution that one size fits all. I mean, it's all about mixing things nicely, and the financing resources always come second. What comes first is the business, is the company's project, is the company's strategy, is the company's path to value creation. When all of this is strong, I mean, the money is there. So I think it's more difficult for companies which are not at critical mass, because consolidation is probably one of the biggest trends and biggest solutions. And it's a bit what I said before. I mean, the money is there. You just have to find a common language between the finance guys and the companies. The bankers and the VCs have to get more educated about understanding gaming business models, risk mitigation, and smaller companies have to get better at talking to bankers and talking to VCs, being able to show that they are well structured as a corporate entity, and find some common ground. I think that's the idea.
All right, that's great. Thanks. That's a great message for the last panel, because that's on how we can professionalize the European games industry. So we'll take that question or that point, let's say, to that panel. All right, thanks so much. Reinhard, you go last. What would you like to see in order to strengthen the European publishing? And you can only have one wish.
Yeah, Per, please allow me to add also what Jürgen said before, that it's all digital. I disagree here, because I believe we shouldn't forget our retailers. They helped us to grow the market, and if everybody is talking about digital, it's the same guiding principle again. Yeah, doing one thing and not neglecting the other. I think we should also support our retailers and physical products. But you ask me now the question. I think, as also Nicolas said, there is not one fits it all. There is not one perfect solution. The stock markets are much more developed in the north and also in Poland than, for example, Germany, Austria, Switzerland. People are not, they don't get what we are doing. Therefore, what is my goal going forward is really to convince the European Investment Bank that I think we don't want grants, and we don't want to ask for, hey, please, can you, I think we need bank loans to give people the potential to grow. I think our industry, it's a real industry, and we will pay back. Yeah, I don't want to get something for free. But I think the European Investment Bank, for example, could play this role, supporting our industry and giving people more, as Nicolas said, the cash is there, so giving us the potential to grow the company, to develop great games for our consumers. And I think that is my goal and next step, because security, as a normal developer, there is no security, there is no real estate, and I'm, by the way, we are self-financed within Embracer Group with bank loans, and we are not giving any security. So people have to trust us, otherwise, I'm sorry, yeah, but we are also delivering. Yeah, it's not a one-way ticket. If people trust us, we deliver whatever they want. We give them our best estimate, and then we have to fulfill.
All right. Thanks, Reinhard. So we'll talk about loans also on the next panel. So this was the publishing panel, and the Director General asked us to give some ideas on how to strengthen European publishing. I think you've done that. Good job. You did great. You have deserved your lunch break, as have you, dear audience. You've been very patient and well behaved, and you've sent very interesting questions. We covered most of them, not everyone. Sorry about that. We'll be back at 2 o'clock. Make sure you get nutrition, and also make sure that you answer the poll, because as soon as we close this panel, there will be a poll. So please go and fill that out, and we'll see you in 32 minutes according to my clock. Thanks a lot.